mean, you need to be able to do, I mean, kind of like I'm not talking about like bushcrafting, but like basic stuff. Like,
Right.
can you do something with a knife if you had to? Like, literally anything. You know, break open a car, like literally anything.
Yeah. Well, here let's put a real start to this, and then we'll just kind of flesh this out. And if it ends up being something cool, if not, we'll scrap it and come up with something else. So this is gonna be, I don't remember what number rapid fire this
Seven,
is.
6 or 7.
Is it 7?
I think it might be
6, 7?
Yeah.
One of those. So yeah, it's just Evan and I today. Aaron has left us to our own devices, so we'll see how this goes. So when we talked about the, what this year has brought on, in my mind, this year made me think of more and more is the idea of being prepared for anything. Now, like the goal of our podcast, obviously, is to talk mostly about, strength and fitness and health in general. And I think a big component is, being prepared for things to go sideways. It's kind of a nice way of putting it. My dad used to articulate it was when the defecation hits the rotary oscillator, because it was a nicer way of saying
Yeah,
it.
that's a good way to put it. I actually have not heard it worded that way.
Yeah, for those of you who couldn't put those pieces together, that's like when the poop hits the fan,
Just think
that,
about it a
that
little
kind
bit,
of thing,
yeah.
right? Think about it a little bit. But anyway, in that idea of total health and being prepared for everything that goes on, like you saw, I mean, people were making runs for toilet paper. Like, people were not prepared for simply being stuck in their house for a couple of weeks, much less what could be some semblance of a catastrophic event. And I think, like, we as a country have gotten very comfortable with we have these things that are that we're used to having available. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But what it can do is it can lull us into a sense of complacency where we're not prepared for things to not be available, or things to be, less than ideal. And even if we're not going to go don't take from this podcast that Evan and I are like crazy preppers or that I've built a bunker in my backyard or anything like that. But I think that there is something to be said for having, some extra food, having, extra toilet paper, having extra water, having a little bit of extra of things that should the power grid go down. We saw this in Texas. The power grid went down, and there were people that had no other way to be prepared for the situation. They got in their car in the garage and turned it on to stay warm, and they ended up dying. It's super morbid, and I apologize for going to that place, but they weren't prepared for now. That's a freak event in Texas, but that's an event that no one was prepared for. The power grid failed. The infrastructure that was in place failed. And that was a good example of how fragile this system that we all live in is. And so if a system is fragile, then it's a good idea for us as prudent and healthy individuals to be prepared for it to fail in some way, shape, or form. And for us to kind of have to fend for ourselves for a little bit. And so one of the things that Evan and I brought up, because I'm curious of, is what kinds of things, what would constitute survival fitness? What would constitute, say, even if you just, say you're on a plane or you're driving with your family and something goes wrong and you guys are in the middle of nowhere and now you got to hike. You got to take whatever you can from your vehicle, take whatever you can off whatever plane you were on. You got to survive for a couple of days. Say you got to hike a couple 100 miles or whatever. Could you do that? What level of fitness do you need to be at? What's the best program to be at that level of fitness? Because these are the kind of weird things that I think about. I've got, I don't have full bug out bags in every vehicle that I own, but I've got little kits, I've got a first aid kit and these kinds of things. My backpack has some basic first aid supplies in it. And I have a plan of, okay, this is what I need to do should these things happen. And people can call it paranoid. I like to think of it more of just, I like being prepared. When a situation arises, I've already got a plan for it. I'm not having to think on my feet any more than I have to, because you're never prepared for everything, obviously.
I think on all those shows, that's the answer they give too. I'm just prepared. They don't
I
have
mean-
any idea that they're actually pretty paranoid.
I mean, I guess
They're also like to the extreme.
right. And that's the thing is like when you talk about preparedness, it's hard to find the middle ground between just like I'm prepared for what could happen
Yeah.
versus like I'm
I think that
I've got
the
my
middle
tinfoil
ground
hat on.
would be if you understand, like literally, you understand what nothing is and you understand what extreme is. That
Right.
I know that's too simple, but
Right. Well, I mean, like you think about like there are people that I know that like they don't know how to make food. They like eat out for every meal. They microwave everything that they eat.
yeah, Hardee's and
it's like,
microwaves.
What are you gonna do if for whatever reason that stopped for a week?
Yeah,
Just a week.
Yeah,
Like, what are you gonna do? Like we saw Madhouse, people just rushing to like when that went down. I had a roommate at the time. We both looked at each other and were like, well, we're good. My freezer's stocked, always, full of meat. I've always got, like, I had a 50-pound bag of rice under the cabinet. Like, I had plenty of toilet paper on accident. Like, didn't really prep for that. Didn't think that was a thing that was ever going to be, a hot commodity. But, like, I wasn't worried. If I had to stay at my house for 2 weeks, I could have done it. Yeah, been a little uncomfortable, of course. Not a ton of fresh fruits and vegetables that would have made it that full time, but okay, I was prepared. So anyway, when it comes to fitness, we're looking because we're going to try to, like I said, no matter what we talk about, we're always going to try to bring it back to some form of health and fitness. So, from a fitness perspective, we'll take this kind of piece by piece. What do you think is the most important? What do you think would be the most important attribute in terms of like survival fitness, we'll call it?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is not your skill set. Honestly, it's getting around. Uh-huh. If you can't get around, I don't care what your skills are because, this is going to sound really mean, but,
Shocking.
Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah.
Stephen Hawking may have a great skill set,
Very
I don't
intelligent.
unless he can be prepared to be on like a tank wheelchair, you know what I mean? Like
he probably could build it.
So being brutally honest, if you can't get around, you're done.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be the most fit individual ever. You don't need to be a marathon runner. You need to be a marathon walker. You need to be able to walk and get around. And anything else, I'd say that's the most important thing is by far just getting around. Can you get around?
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, mobility and your ability to like to be healthy, like to be not dependent upon like I'm on these 19 medications.
I think of it as can you go on a day hike? Great. Can you survive 2 to 3 days going on a hike, like, and kind of camping just in general? You don't need to prepare a lot for that. But
No.
if you can't survive 2 to 3 days hiking, you don't need to do this. But if you couldn't survive that, I mean, you've got some issues.
Right. Like if you think about like and I get it, there have been plenty of people that listen to this.
Well, it's also not long enough that you're going to go mentally crazy.
No,
because
not
you
at
can't find food, you can't find water, just a little bit of preparation. Like you live in a perfectly comfortable home. You have all the food and all the comforts you would possibly need. Take some of that and then apply it to 2 to 3 days of camping.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, it does not even take any skills.
No, not at all.
We're not asking anything.
No, and you could even even if you just took your vehicle,
Yeah,
and you drove somewhere and you parked it and you lived in a tent next to it, or you slept in the back
and you
of your
just hung
car,
out for 2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days, and like did a little hiking, and
that's
like
it.
if you can do that, like
Yeah.
that's a bare minimum of okay, I'm at least able to do these things, and those don't require, like you said, it doesn't require a ton of physical preparedness. It doesn't require a ton of physical ability.
You may not even need to make a checklist, honestly. 2 to 3 days. Like, I think...
Yeah, I mean, I could grab the backpack that I carry on a daily basis. I could probably be good for a couple of days.
If you wanted to be prepared, Yeah, I mean, you need a plan for sure, but just bare bones basics.
Yeah.
Survive 2 to 3 days of just like stuff in your house.
Yeah. Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so I think of like camping or hiking, and then what can you get away with? You know, what kind of physical issues do you have? What kind of limitations do you have? What kind of medications do you need? Um, do you need this, $10,000 bed to sleep? Stuff like that. You know, like what can you get
Yeah.
away with? Can you get away with eating beef jerky for 3 days, or eating nuts for 3 days, or
Right.
eating potato chips because that's all you have? Like stuff
Right.
like that. That's kind of what I'm talking
Yeah.
about getting away with.
Okay, so if I'm going to look at my ability to walk, I think what is like I don't know, like I could be wrong on this. This number could be completely wrong. Katie would correct me 100% because she's actually done this much longer term than I did. But I mean, like most people, they usually like 20 miles a day. Like is the average 10 to 20 miles a day is like if you're walking, like
It's-
you're walking.
Oh,
or
it's
hike.
like the distance.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like a hiking?
Yeah, like
Not-
if you were gonna be like hiking or walking, like how far up an average person can travel in a day, it's somewhere in that I thought like 10 to 20 mile range.
I would think that's possible. Yeah, but I think most people who are going to go on a little hike, it's probably more realistically like 1 to 3 miles or something like just like a like I
Right,
I,
right,
dri-
right.
I drive to a spot and it looks pretty and I'm going to walk a circle
Oh, for
and it's
sure.
1 to 3 miles kind of thing. But
Yeah, no, I agree
if
with
someone
that.
if someone is actually like hiking, I would say realistically you should be able to book it for 10 or so miles.
Right.
For sure. If you want to cover some ground and actually do something and see some stuff and not be, I guess, limited on what you're able to see.
Mhm. Right. And so, like when we think about so if walking is the most important component or mobility of some kind, being able to move, then we'll start with that one as this one component. How do we improve that? Well, in general, most things, if you're trying to improve a quality of some kind, you just do that thing more. So, like if this is again, I will add for another caveat. If this isn't anything you ever want to do, you can just ignore this podcast in general. But if this is something that, hey, like, man, I really don't have any of these abilities or have any of this, physical attributes, then we'll try to offer some things you guys can do to help build these things. So an easy thing to do, obviously, is just more walking, more hiking, adding some kind of external load to that. So yeah, you only got time to hike 3 miles. To hike that 3 miles with a 10-pound backpack. Hike that 3 miles with carrying your small child. Like Erin talks about, like going out and they'll go for hikes, and for a long time she was carrying at least one of those kids, at all times. And so like that's a very easy way to increase your work capacity in a very, call it sport specific manner, because you are hiking with a load, which is very similar to what you would need to be doing should you have to walk yourself out of a bad situation or walk yourself to a better spot, depending on what's going on. Because like I said, this may not necessarily be the end of the world scenario, where the EMP has hit us or whatever, and the whole, it's not, I'm not going like full Red Dawn on us or anything like that. But
Good movie.
your car breaks down, you got to walk to the next town, or whatever. Like your cell phone's dead. Hey, it happens.
I just recently started training a client, and she has double knee replacements, and she also has an ankle replacement. And she's lost a lot of weight. She's gained a lot of strength in only a few months. But before then, she was so overweight and deconditioned that she could not go to the mall with her daughters.
Wow.
And now she can.
That's awesome.
That is kind of what we're talking about.
Right.
If you can't go to the mall and just hang out without sitting down and,
Right.
hey, you go to this store, you go to this store, not because you're choosing to, because you can't.
Right.
That should be a red flag.
100%.
And, if you have issues that you 100% cannot prevent or avoid, okay. But you could probably try a little bit harder, just doing a little bit more than you're currently doing. And
Right.
that's kind of I think what we're talking about is walking requires the ability to stand.
Right.
How long can you stand up?
Mm-hmm.
Can you stand up?
Yeah.
You need strength in your ankles, your knees, and your hips. Not a lot, but a little bit. If you need
enough.
to be able to walk and not just get destroyed from walking. And I'm not talking about blisters on your feet. I'm talking about
like you're winded walking from like the one end of the parking lot.
Yeah,
to
or
the
my
other.
knees hurt because you're walking. Because you're walking,
Right.
Your ankles hurt because you're walking. And I'm not talking about just out of some kind of surgery or just
Right.
you know.
You're relatively healthy, and you're that deconditioned.
Yes.
That your body hurts just simply from the act of taking a walk.
I mean, so overall lower body leg strength. It's also one of the top 3 greatest indicators of mortality if you do not have leg strength. So you need some form of leg strength. And you don't need to, be doing barbell deadlifts and barbell squats, but you need some kind of leg strength, some kind of resistance. And then another thing with standing is you need posture, and you have postural muscles, so you need to strengthen those muscles. If you can't stand up for a very long time, you need to strengthen those muscles.
100%.
And it's not that complicated. If you just did carries and you were hiking around, that's probably all you would realistically need. Because if you can do that, you're probably not at a body weight that limits you from doing something like a push-up. We're not talking pull-ups. We're talking about doing a push-up. If you trip and fall, and if that literally ruins your life, you're not very strong. You're not very conditioned.
Right.
But if you trip and fall and you can't get yourself off the ground, you're dead.
In a survival situation, 100%.
Yeah. So the little things add up. You need to be able to stand up. You need to be able to walk. You need to be able to move around. You need to be able to pick yourself up off the ground without someone's help. If you can't do those small things, you're dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
We're not even talking about bushcraft, crazy survival. We're not talking about any of that. So we're not talking about Bear Grylls and watching TV shows. Nothing.
Right.
If you can't do those things, you are left behind.
We're not even getting into like the survival training that you get, in the Marine Corps.
Right.
We're talking just basics. Can you walk?
Well, also, another reality check is the single greatest reason for someone to go into a nursing home. You know what it is? It's if you can't get up off the ground by yourself.
Right.
If you need assistance. How many times are you going to have to go help grandma before it's like, well, it's time to go in a home? And
we deal with the calls like that all the time.
Yeah, I'm not being mean. I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
If you can't pick yourself up off the ground. So if you're in a situation like that, how many times, it's like, hey, Timmy fell again. We got to pick him up. You know what? Leave him. We don't have time.
Right.
We don't have the extra energy to help you, and it is what it is.
Right.
So
well, no, and that's so. There's a company called 30 Seconds Out. I've got a few shirts by them and stuff, but one of the shirts in the sticker packs that they've recently come out with that I'm a huge fan of is it says expect to self-rescue. And I think if like anything, this year has shown like,
is that one of your patches on your?
It's not right now.
Okay.
I just haven't got it yet.
Okay.
I've got one of the ones that's on there from them is hope is not a good plan. And it's true though, because it's like, oh, I hope this is going to work out. But it's like, well, but if you didn't plan for that, like just hoping and praying like, oh, well, yeah, I'm just going to put my hands in the air and hope this works out. Like, that's not a good plan.
I really do enjoy talking about this stuff, but people would probably think you're a little bit weird if you're hanging out and you just all of a sudden bring this stuff up. But I do think it's a great reality check.
This is the kind of stuff that I like think about a lot.
So you could also...
We should put a trigger warning at the beginning of this. Like, hey, if you're sensitive or you're not ready for Evan to deliver harsh realities, just move on to the next episode.
But I can also bring it back into the gym with real people that I've actually trained. I used to train a client. They would go to Hawaii every single year. Guess what? They're not going this year because she is not physically capable of making the trip and
doing stuff when they're
In
there.
Hawaii, you're
Right.
going to be doing physical things. You're
Yeah.
going to be traveling. You're going to be walking, and you're the limiting factor. And it is
Right.
that's very. If you can't do that, what? How much of a reality check do you need?
Right.
Honestly, if you can't go on vacation, something like that, and it's like, well, we can go on vacation, but I'm just going to sit here.
I'm just gonna sit at the hotel.
Yeah, is
or I'm
that
gonna stay
what?
at the beach?
And you don't need a great level of fitness in order to do that. You just need obviously a little bit more than you have now.
Right.
Maybe can you stand up for 10 minutes at a time? Can you stand up for 5 minutes at a time? Let's try to walk and exercise so you can stand up for 30 minutes at a time, an hour at a time. Can you walk half a mile? If you can't walk half a mile without sitting down, you're slowing your family down and stuff like that.
Right.
So you could easily bring this stuff back to real people in the gym trying to get fit and trying to get healthier. And it doesn't always work out for everyone.
No, not at all.
And not everyone has, I hate to say it, like enough work ethic or kind of fight to want to be able to do those things.
Right.
Whenever the reality of it being taken away is not great enough for you to make a change.
Right.
I can't help you with that.
No.
I can't make you exercise.
Not at all.
You have to come in to see me. You have to be consistent. I'll take care of the rest.
Right. The best we can do is provide people with the opportunity
Yeah.
to do these things. And that's something like that with this particular episode, like all I wanted to do was just like put a little seed of thought in someone's mind that, hey, if something went wrong, if something goes sideways and I need to do something, can I do that? Am I physically able to drag my loved one out of my house that's on fire? Can I get my own self out of the house that's on fire? Like, can I, whatever I need to do, to ensure that myself and my family are taken care of and are healthy. Because at the end of the day, like as much as I love being a law enforcement officer, I love serving my community, I love being there and helping in any way I can. Even in a town that is the size that I work in, I could be 5 minutes away. That's a long time. 5 minutes is a long time if you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And if you're not physically able to do that, or 5 minutes is a long, whatever it is, like if those are things that I look at when I look at my own training and I look at my own self, and it's conversations I have with my own family, my parents, my girlfriend, like those are conversations that I have with these people because I want you to be able to survive. I want you to be able to live. I want you to be able to do what you need to do if things get bad or things, take a bad turn, because we don't live in a certain world in any way, shape, or form. And to kind of put our heads in the sand and act like, oh, everything will be okay, everything will be fine, it'll all work out. In my opinion, it's not the way that I choose to live. Let's put it that way. If you want to live that way, you want to live blissfully ignorant of the world we live in, that's completely up to you. Sorry, I'm choking on coffee. That's completely up to you. That's not how I choose to live my life. And that's just, I can't wrap my mind around it because it's just not how I'm wired.
I thought of another way to also
I'm trying to be nice, and I should probably just stop trying to be nice at this point. But
well, here's another way to kind of bring the point home as far as traveling with your family or spending time with your family and doing things. If you shop for Christmas online because of convenience, that's one thing.
right,
But if you physically can't go to stores and walk around, isn't it? I think I can't remember the statistic. I think the majority, like at least 80% of people who actually buy things, they will go to stores, look, and then buy it online. So that being said, they still physically go to the store, look
Right.
at things, pick it up and look at it.
Right.
What's this look like? Because just pictures online don't do everything justice.
it's true.
So if you're shopping online for convenience, that's one thing. But if you physically can't go to the stores and buy like stuff, it doesn't matter what it is, what store for whatever family member, it doesn't matter. If you can't do those things,
Right,
that's also it should be another reality check.
for sure. Right, that should be a wake up call of some kind that you're like, oh wow, like I can't even do this.
Yeah.
Or do you get winded? Are you out of breath, gasping for air by the time you walk to the top of your own stairs? Like,
Yeah.
much less having to walk from any length of distance. Like
people probably think we're real weirdos with some of this stuff, but with my own stairs, honestly, I always it's a habit. It's not because I'm trying to challenge myself.
Do you run up your own stairs?
I don't run. I mean, I do sometimes, but I will.
Just so excited to get home.
I will skip steps always.
Right.
Because to me, it's like an easy lunge, unless I'm really tired or at the end of the day or it's pitch black. I'll take a single step, but it is second nature. I don't even think about it. I just do it. Whenever I'm tired, I just take single steps.
Right. Well, like so. This is something in, like, I'll throw my mom out here for now. But, like, so she used to really have an issue with, like, getting up the stairs for a number of different reasons. But one of the things that has happened as she's trained more and as she's gotten into the gym more and gotten stronger.
If you're weak or if you're in pain, stairs are not your friend.
No, not at all. She's now able, as far as I'm aware still, to get up the top of the stairs without needing to take a break in the middle, without having to rely on the handrail, without having to... be completely gassed at the top.
Well, it's also really embarrassing if you happen to be that person when you're going up the stairs and, someone walks by you and asks if you're okay because you just need to take a break.
Or you're the group of people and you're like, hang on, I'll meet you at the top.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, and I don't want to say you don't want to be that person, but you don't want to be that person. I was that person whenever I had my knee surgery. Right. I didn't want to be that person.
Right.
But I was for a certain amount of time.
Sure.
Also, another thing, if you haven't thought about this, if your knees hurt going down the stairs and you don't care what other people think, go backwards. Yeah. Because it's like an eccentric lunge almost, and you're using more muscles in the leg versus if you're walking down forward, you're primarily stressing the knee and the ankle, which...
Or you could just be like falling and catching yourself. Essentially, each little step is a little fall catch.
Yeah. And actually, whenever people... I mean, we've seen this in the gym time and time after again. After people age and they get so weak, that's actually how they walk. They don't propel themselves forward like an animal.
They're not pushing off the ground.
Yes,
they're literally just like leaning forward, and then their foot is coming out and catching them before they fall. And that's how
I think
they
of
walk.
like an animal in the wild. They're reaching, they're clawing the ground, and they're pulling and propelling themselves forward as fast as possible. That's how humans walk. I mean, it is.
That's how we're supposed
to. Take
a
step, and then you pull, and you pull, and you pull. Not really fast.
Right.
It's not a sprint. But when you lose the strength or the ability to do that, you literally just gravity.
Right.
You lean forward, and you just stick your leg out, and then you fall every single step. If you don't have the strength.
One of the things, like, so we talk about this in various realms, but is getting as many like good reps as you can on stuff. So whatever it is, if you think about like when I'm walking, that's a good opportunity to build a good habit. So when I'm walking, I can think about, just getting where I'm going. So like I'm just whether I'm doing that kind of that older individual walk where I'm just kind of fall catching, or I'm waddling, or I'm just kind of just do whatever I'm going on with, versus actually putting in the thought, okay, I want to grab the ground, heel to toe, and I want to make sure I can track my glute to bring my hips forward, and my actually using my leg muscles to pull me along, and actually walk in a way that's like actually like good for your body, versus simply just like not thinking about it and developing a bad movement pattern. And so those are really easy reps to get in, something as simple as walking. Like, again, I know it seems maybe overthinking your walking patterns, but those are movement patterns that you do so much throughout the day that if you're ignoring it and you're letting it just kind of fall however it is, you're missing an opportunity to build good muscle and good mind-muscle connection.
So I'll try my best to come full circle, unless you have something else to add.
Go for it.
Okay. And you can...
We could probably go forever on something like this.
Yeah, this might be kind of tough to come full circle on, but I think of like your level of strength and fitness and my level of strength and fitness, I would hope can accomplish the task of what we're talking about.
Right.
100%. The point is that the listener does not need that level of strength and fitness.
Right.
In order to do that, you just need more than you have now most likely. And you probably don't know what that is. So the thought process of, can I do this? Can I go to whatever mall, your closest mall, and shop for a whole day? If you can't do that, I would say that's an issue. If you can't go for a day or 2 or 3 of just like kind of like the whole camping process, if that idea, it's not whether you want to do this, it's can you?
Right.
If you can't do it, that's probably an issue. And I'm trying to come full circle to the amount of volume, just like training, fitness kind of stuff. Whenever I'm at the house, if I'm doing yard work, I don't do that stuff all day. I don't do it for a living.
Right.
So it actually does get to the point where it's very fatiguing and challenging, and I may get blisters or whatever it is.
Right.
That's too hard of training. Like, you don't need to get to that point. So for me to know that, I have to kind of overdo it a little bit to know what's too much.
Right.
So for the average person to know what too much is, it's okay to find it. You're probably not going to get hurt. If you do it all the time, it's probably not a good thing. If you do too little, it's also probably not a good thing. So what's in the middle? It's hard to explain, and it's hard to give you enough of a nudge to, you need to do better than what you're doing right now because I said so. Because all the issues that you have, I attribute it to this. I attribute it to that. I don't really care what it is. If you do just a little bit better than what you're doing now, almost any issue that you probably have is either preventable or it can be lessened if you have a higher level of fitness or if you eat better.
Right.
Just that it's that simple.
It is, for sure. And if you are a listener that goes to PRT, you should bring some of these things up with your coach and we'll help you out.
It's fun to talk about. I try to come full circle with stuff. If someone comes in to see me and they have an issue, I don't necessarily try to attack that issue or even talk about it if I think it's going to be like a soft spot.
Right.
But I'll slowly kind of work it in, like, hey, when's the last time? Or I'll actually have someone I'll show them an exercise that I know might be challenging for them, and I just watch how they're watching me perform the exercise.
Right.
And if I know it scares them, then I'll lightly kind of nudge them, like, you need to be able to do this. You don't have to do this in the gym,
right?
But you need to be able to do this if you can't. And we can train you to get there, but it's just something to think about as far as getting up off the ground or being able to do a push-up. If you can't do a push-up, it's not about doing a push-up. You're so weak that if you fell, you're going to the hospital.
Right.
And it's a very real thing. If you're too weak, it's a problem. You're going to have more injuries, and you're going to slowly get back on track. Like you're going to, like, literally slowly.
Right.
Slower than normal.
Right. Well, and that's something too, like that I don't think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe misunderstand or whatever about going to the gym, is that, like, the purpose of the gym is to better prepare you for daily life, for
whatever
what's
that
going
happens
on.
To be.
Right. And there are people that have come in and, like, not been able, or, they can't get off the couch without having to throw themselves up or have someone help them. They can't get off the toilet without having to use the handrails.
Yep.
And then through getting stronger, building a better, anaerobic and aerobic base, they're then able to do those things. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's super simple, but it's a big deal because it's something that they weren't able to do before, that they lost the ability to do along the way, that now they're able to do again, that gives them a level of freedom. Like you said, if you can't get up off the floor, come see us. You need to go see a strength and conditioning professional of some kind to help you build up the strength and muscle coordination to get to that point.
Well, also, if you're at that point, you are probably so weak and deconditioned that there's no such thing as practice. Like, you need to go see someone who can teach you the skills that are going to enable you to get up off the ground. And it's not about, rolling on the ground and doing lunges and stuff. If you can't get on the ground, I'm not going to make you get on the ground yet, because then it's a failure, and it actually could be dangerous.
Right.
It really is.
For sure.
It's too dangerous. So we need to work up to that.
Yeah.
Just like anything else.
Right.
We're not going to do rope climbs the first day, and we're not going to run 10 miles the first day. It doesn't really work like that. That's why
I've heard some of those horror stories.
That's why gyms have insurance, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. On that note, we'll wrap this up. Like I said, we like to keep these rapid fires pretty short.
I know that the beginning of this rapid fire, it may steer people away or scare people. I love talking about this stuff, and I know you do too, Jared. But I like the hypothetical stuff, but it's not hypothetical. I have a million stories that I can tell.
Right.
I can tell about real people that have come and seen me, and they can't do certain things.
Right.
And how do we get back to either doing those things or getting as close as possible? Because that's what we're trying to do.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if you take anything away from this message or this episode, like, think about this as a kind of a call to action. Okay, what are things that I should be able to do or want to be able to do that I can't do now, and what can I do to get myself to a place where I can do those things with some level of relative ease, and then begin to build mastery of just simply being able to move, being able to walk, to do whatever, get up off the ground, do whatever you need to do. Not necessarily, doesn't have to necessarily be in an extreme hypothetical of, you're having to do anything crazy in the woods or whatever, but you build a better base, you then are able to do all kinds of crazy things.
It's still the same thing if you can't go to the mall.
Right.
If you can't hang out and do activities with your family, it's not maybe where you are mentally,
right.
But for someone else, that's survival for them.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, is it because you slowly stopped doing things, or if was something taken away?
Right.
Like some kind of issue or surgery or accident or something like that. That's different.
Right. That's true. Yeah. No, I mean, if it's through, you're simply you've allowed yourself to become less active, you are the one that controls that. You are the one that decides
absolutely
how active I want to be. That we all have the same amount of time in the day. We all have varying responsibilities and things to get done, of course, but you have time for what you want to have time for. You can watch less TV or do whatever. We've had that conversation more than once on this podcast.
Yeah.
But take this as a call to action. Take this as a, something maybe will, like I said, plant that seed in your mind of just kind of, okay, what are things that I want to be able to do that I can't do, and how do I get there? So, all that being said,
stay tuned to next time, Survival Stories with Jared.
Oh boy. We'll see. We'll see what the response to this one is. So with that in mind, let us know what you guys think. We actually had some good comments on the YouTube page with the last episode when we talked about COVID. I like having engagement. I like having people reach out, send us emails to the email account, partycast@gmail.com. You can always send direct messages to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Come into the gym, talk to us in person. Go on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a 1-star review if that's what you think you want to leave us. It's not very nice, but hey, if you don't think we suck, then leave what your thoughts are. So far, we only have 5-star reviews, so we'll try to keep that trend going. But if you guys like this episode, think that's something that, this episode or this show is in general, something that people in your life want to see, need to see, send it to them. The best way to build listenership and viewership is through word of mouth. You guys sharing this show with other people. We'll continue to obviously push it out on our social media platforms. But come at us with your questions. Hopefully next time we'll have Aaron, and we'll probably do some more question and answer. We'll go back through. I know we've got a list of questions still that we haven't gotten to yet, but continue to send those in. Those are a big help, and those let us know what things you guys are interested in. If you hate the idea of talking about survival and preparedness and all that kind of stuff, let me know. We won't talk about it anymore. Or maybe we will.
We'll come up with a leveling system.
Well, yeah, right.
The apocalypse leveling system, or, how to get back to the mall.
There you go. Right. Like I said, guys, if there's topics you guys want us to delve into deeper, let us know. We'll try to dedicate an entire podcast or entire episode to something that we can really dig into in terms of research and things like that. So I think that's all I got.
Me too.
All right. You guys have a good week. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of PartyCast. Check us out on your favorite podcasting site. And remember, each episode is also available on YouTube. Thank you for joining us on this adventure, and we will see you next time.